Hello and welcome to another C3 Stingray video. This is part 8 of my videos on this 1979 Corvette I bought for $1,500, and I'm trying to get it on the road by April 8th of this year, which has been a real pain because I haven't really got out here and worked on it very much. But if you watched the last episode, we took the whole rear suspension off and those trailing arms, and in this episode I'm going to tear those trailing arms apart to get them ready to be rebuilt. And they haven't been off the car since 1979, so they really don't want to come apart. But you'll see that in the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. Hit that like button and notification button, all those other buttons, and let's just get into the video. Well, here's the trailing arm assembly as it was taken off in the last video we did, taking the trailing arms off. You can see where I cut that trailing arm bolt off to get it off of there. But I did not remove the strut or the shock because everything was really difficult under there and nothing was coming off easy, so I thought it'd be easier to have it out here to take it off. But unfortunately it wasn't any easier. First off, we're going to take off this shock. It's a 3/4 inch nut. This nut came off pretty easy, but I had to get the air hammer out to drive this shock off there. I mean, it's just stuck on there, and it really took quite a bit to knock this thing off. Surprisingly, I would think that would just slide right off, but everything on this rear end has just been a real pain. So it took me a couple times to knock this thing off. Now we're going to try to get this strut, this whole strut shock mount needs to be driven out of this spindle support. And first off, we got to take this cotter pin out, and this, like everything else, does not want to come out. You can see I messed with this for a while I eventually got to the point where I just broke the ends off on both ends. The nut was no longer obstructed, and I was able to get that nut off. It's a 15/16 nut on there, and as you can see, I'm really putting the impact on there, the air impact, and it took a little bit for that to break loose too, but it did come off. Now you're going to need this knockoff tool which screws on the threads here, so supposedly you don't mess up your strut shock support there. So you can screw this on there and then just take a hammer or something and try to knock that out. I mean, technically that's how it's supposed to come out, but as you see, it's not even budging. And I'm not even showing you all the video of this. I tried for a while to try to get this to knock loose, and it would not do anything. I tried heating it up. I had some MAP gas, which burns a little hotter than the regular gas, but you know, it does get it heated up enough. But still, even with that and some PB blaster, still no luck. It wasn't going to budge. So the next is to cut it off. Got a 4-inch cutoff tool, which is just barely enough to get through this bolt. I had to flip it over to get it all the way through. But I'm cutting it off on each side to get that strut out of the way so I can knock the remnants of this bolt out of there. Of course, I'm going to have to replace this whole strut shock support, but they cost about like around 50 bucks a piece. Actually sell them on my website at c3stingray.com if you need them. That's why I'm just cutting it off. I'm not going to deal with it. It's not coming out, and as you'll see later, it was never going to come out. So after a while I was able to get that cut all the way through. You can see I had to flip it over to get it so I could get all the way through that bolt. But here it's coming out now. It's breaking off the rest of the way. But I still have to get the remnants of that bolt out, and as you can see here, I put the nut on the one side where the threads are, because my idea is just to drive that nut down and basically unscrew that. So I'm tightening this nut down, and that's pulling the remnants of that bolt out of there, that whole support, that half of that support out of there. Took a little bit to do it, but with that air impact, it was able to keep turning until it finally broke all the way out. Not broke, but pulled all the way out. This was actually the easier of the two sides to get out. As you can see, there's a nice clean pull out there. But I still have to get the other side, but this gives me a little easier access to the other side. I'm hitting that with an air hammer to no luck whatsoever. I mean, I worked on this for a while trying to get, because I did the other side. I already did the left-hand side, and I had to do it the same way. I had to cut it off and knock it out, but that side knocked out. This side did not want to knock out. And as you see, I'm even putting the heat on it for a while, and it still does not want to budge. And I'm hitting it with PB Blaster in between that heat, and I mean, nothing's working on this. To the point I finally just gave up. I soaked it some more, some PB Blaster, and then went on to the rest of it. Now this is the one I took off the left-hand side. It was a pain to get out too, but I was able to get it out easier than this one. But I'm going to come back to this later. I'm going to try to take this rear spindle flange off of here and the whole spindle out. But first I got to get this cotter pin out, and of course I'm having to battle it like I've battled every cotter pin on this car. And I end up just breaking off both ends just so I can get clearance to get that nut off. The nut size is 1 1/16". I only had a 27mm that would fit. I didn't have anything that big in my standard sockets, but 27mm fit perfectly. Now I had to put a crowbar between the studs on the other side to hold this from spinning, and then I put the impact on this side to get this nut off. Didn't really want to come off either, but it eventually slowly came loose. The nut is off, and now we're going to take that spindle flange off of there, and our next thing will be to try to knock this spindle out. Now once again, there's another tool. It's basically just the screw over to protect the threads so you can hammer the spindle out. You just gotta knock it loose and you can pull it out on the other side. You want to screw it all the way down just so you don't mess those threads up, because if you don't screw it all the way down and start hammering it, it's a good chance you're going to screw the threads up. Didn't take too many hits to finally break loose. As you can see it, like you can see it move. There, it's getting really loose now. And just pull this out the other side. And you can see this, the spacers. You got that spacer there. We're going to go through all this on the setup when we rebuild it all. Now we're going to take these brake shoes off, these parking brake shoes. And this little tool helps getting these caps off these springs. You can pick up that tool pretty cheap anywhere. And you don't have to have it. You can do it with a pair of pliers too. But I seem to have to do this enough that the tool, it's a lot easier just to have the tool. It's a pretty cheap little tool to have. Everything on here is really rusty. Now there's two little tabs on this upper nut at the top that we're going to have to take out. So I'm bending these flanges back, or these little tabs back, so the nut can turn. Unfortunately, the nut doesn't turn. Tell you, nothing on this thing wants to come apart. So I decided to take the rest of the shoes off, get those out of the way. Yeah, I thought that I kept doing this, it would eventually break loose, but it just did not want to break loose. So, taking the springs off, all these pieces are going to be replaced. Everything on these parking brakes are going to be replaced, and none of it really matters. This top spring was giving me a little grief, so I decided to just cut it, just to get it out there, just to get this out of my way. really could not get that spring to cooperate. So you can see I cut it. You want to be careful if you cut it like that because the spring goes flying. So the parking brake is out of the way. And we got that little arm that engages the parking brake that we got to pull out of there. Once we get that out of the way, I'm going to try this nut one more time. This nut is a 3/4 inch nut or bolt, not a nut but a bolt. It's a 3/4 inch that I'm trying to get out, and it still does not want to move. Put some PB Blaster on it. I don't know if I heated this up or not. I think I did heat it up once. It just doesn't want to move, so I'm gonna have to put the breaker bar on it. I didn't want to do this because I've been breaking so many things that I did really just scared that I was gonna break this off, but luckily it finally moved. But not easily. You can see I got a pretty good bar on it. I got a braking bar with a pipe, and it still took a lot of force to get that to finally break loose. I'm going to put the impact on it and get it the rest of the way out. Now we have this plate in the back. Backing plate shield. And there are 4 9/16 nuts that you're going to have to take off there. And those came off easily, luckily. Now I'm going to take the lock washers off and then slide this whole plate off and get it out of the way. Now we have the bracket that holds the caliper on. Just need to just tap that, get it loose, and it should slide right off. Now we're on the spindle support. I tried hitting it from underneath to see if I could break it loose, but that did no good. I can see that was not going to do any good. So the next thing is to get a chisel and try to get it loose. And after hammering for a while, I finally did break it loose from the seal. And you know me, with my loving to use my air hammer, I got the air hammer out and slayed it flat. Worked it very slowly around there until I could bust it loose. Once I had that crack in there, I could wedge that air hammer in there and just keep moving it out until it finally broke loose. Now I gotta take this. This was the bolt that actually held the trailing arm in place that I had to cut off underneath the car to get this trailing arm off. But this whole bushing is held together. It's got a little bit of a flange on it where it's kind of flared out, so you're gonna have to grind it down. Since that bolt's still in there, I had to grind it down. If the bolt wasn't in there, you could probably get a big drill bit in it and maybe drill it out and get that flange off of there so you can knock it out. But since that bolt's in there and it did not want to move, I had to keep grinding until I ground off the flange, and then I took my air hammer and knocked it off the rest of the way, and then took the air hammer and knocked the bolt out. Now we got to get the rest of this out. And I went from the inside first. I just kind of, there I'm trying to get the outer lip out enough where I could get behind it to pry this apart, but I went on the inside and hammered in between the two pieces that come together there, and that got it out enough where I could get behind it with the air hammer and knock the rest of this out of there. So you can see a little bit better here. I just kept working it, just kind of wedging, knocking it out. And there, it is out finally. Now I'm just taking a clip off of this brake hose that I cut off when I was underneath. Now I'm set up on the press. I'm going to take these studs out. I had some camera issues here, and for some reason while I was doing this, the camera shut off. Here I'm on Looks like the third one now. I missed one of them completely. But it's basically just setting it up on a 2x4 to try to get it even. And I'm just pressing them out. You could take a hammer and knock them out. I'm doing the left-hand side now because I forgot to do that when I took the left-hand side off. So kind of seeing again one more shot of it just to show you. It's pretty self-explanatory, I think. I'm just lining it up on this press on this 2x4, and I have that little bungee cord on, holding it on there just so the whole thing doesn't fall off. But it's basically just lining it up straight as you can and just pressing them out. Now you could take a hammer on your workbench and beat the heck out of them and knock them out that way. I just like using the press. I think it's easier. And I tell you, the first two I did just fell out, but these other ones were a lot harder to get out. Took a lot more pressure to knock them out. Alright, we're back to that shock support again. And as you can see here, I'm taking drill bits and I'm drilling it out some. I'm hoping that maybe I can loosen it up. And I just keep getting bigger bits, keep drilling it, and then I take the air hammer and hit it a few times. Nothing. This thing just would not come out. There's no way I would have ever beat that out with that tool where you just try to hammer the whole thing out. It would have never come out because it's not even wanting to come out this way. I finally resorted to getting the torch out, and I just set the torch up and just let it sit there and cook this thing for a while. I mean, I left it on there for a few minutes. This MAP gas gets pretty hot. You can see it's smoking there. I mean, the thing is getting hot. And then I put it back with the air hammer, and still, I mean, I had to air hammer this thing for a while. I have done the MAP gas, I've done the PB blaster. It's insane how hard this was to get out, but eventually it finally broke loose. Wow. And that's just crazy how hard that was to get out of there. And obviously I'm going to have to replace that piece, which you can actually get on my website at c3stingray.com if you do the same thing, but hopefully yours will just come out.
Why did you buy your new Chevrolet from Buff Whalen?
Because I got a great deal and great service at Buff Whalen Chevrolet. Too bad he doesn't sell televisions.
Deals really do.
Wow, talk about worst case scenarios. That shock support, there's no way that should have came out that hard. I mean, that was a total pain. I took the one out, the one I didn't record, the left-hand side that I took apart, it was hard to get out too, but it wasn't as hard as that one. So it was pretty ridiculous how I had to get that out of there. 9 times out of 10 they are hard to get out, but not that bad usually. But anyway, we got it all apart. It's all ready to go now. Now I just need to sandblast it, paint it, and get it ready for be rebuilt. And that's what I'll be doing in the next episode. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and hit that like button and notification button. And if you need any new or used C3, C4, C5 Corvette parts, go to my website, c3stingray.com, and I guess that is it. I will see you on the road.